we're going to go over to the British Isles. We're going to go to Britain, okay? And this story here, I thought it was interesting, and I want to tie it into how it applies to us here in the United States. But the British movie spend hit record high of 3.8 billion. And that's as dollars, but I don't know if that's converted. So is it 3.8 billion dollars or is it pounds? And they just didn't make the pound symbol. I don't
Pounds,
know.
dollars.
But last year saw the highest annual spend on movie production in the UK since records began, according to just released annual starts from the BFI. According to the BFI, feature film production contributed, 2.8 billion pounds, $3.8 billion in 2025. That's up 30%,
Sweet.
31%. Okay.
Sweetness.
But there's a little more to this story. However, as has been the direction in recent years, only 7% of that spend was on domestic production. So we've got ourselves a bit of a trade deficit here. The majority of the movies coming in are Hollywood movies. So the work's there for the workers, but it's not British owned. I think this is ironic. Movies like Wuthering Heights and The Beatles, a 4-film cinematic event, are American films, as well as Supergirl. And we know Marvel is starting to open up shop over there. Not
Yeah, I mean, they
starting
shot
to, but
Vision Quest and Doomsday there.
are shooting there. Yes. They said there was a slight rise in domestic spending, but only by 4%. So to me, this is a little bit alarming because this can create a bubble situation where if in California they start to focus on tax incentives like they should be, and they have started that, and they continue that, and that starts to draw back, then what happens is they're like a huge bubble in Britain's, because if they've only risen by 4%, but it's a 31% overall uptick, they put out great stuff. Even in TV, they've put out Slow Horses, Outlander, Blood of My Blood, the Harry Potter series coming to HBO. That's done overseas as well.
Sure.
But, one, what can we learn from the, Britain's model here, tax structure? And two, is this a bubble? If they start to pull movies back to the States, what's going to happen there?
I mean, it's an interesting question, and it really always comes down to affordability. And even in the States, people go where there's tax incentives. Dick Wolf basically controls production in, say, Illinois, because he makes Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got great tax incentives in Illinois because so many people get employed. And what people don't understand, it's not just the spend that happens on the productions. It's the people that are working on the productions. They're making money, and then they spend money in those economies as well. So, and then if you're building sets, you're buying local lumber, and it's always great to have productions anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So to incentivize production is I think a smart thing to do. The problem with, say, here in California is that we've been living so high on the hog for so many years. We just took production for granted.
Yeah.
And now it's all gone. I mean, Hollywood is, you wander around the city, it's like, where is everybody? Where was the excitement of the 90s where there was so much production going on? Somebody was always working on something. Now it's all gone. So I think
everyone's working on something, but they're on a plane to Vancouver, Toronto,
right, exactly,
Georgia,
exactly.
Atlanta, UK.
And it's really problematic. And obviously Marvel they went from Atlanta to England.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why they did that. I mean, it all comes down to economic incentives and that it's academic. So look, I would like to see production come back to America. Nobody knows how to produce movies better than the Americans do. It's an industry that we started, but unfortunately, like so many other things, we took it for granted, and Americans can't even afford to do the industries that they created, which we need to figure that out, and we need to bring production back. I don't know if I really answered your question, but
no, you
I
did,
do,
because it's the larger, to me, it's the larger question. It's great that production rose 31%, but it's all imported productions.
Yep.
So that puts you in a kind of a tedious position that if those productions leave, you're stuck with this bubble that just burst.
Yeah, that's true. But although it's nice to see that there's more and more British homegrown shows being made.
They put out wonderful content, let me tell you. And
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I went back. My friend Rob, I was on last night with my friend Rob G on my own channel, and he was telling me I really hadn't looked through Tubi.
Oh,
and Boy, what a rabbit hole Tubi is. But there's all these great British shows on Tubi. And I went back and looked at what's called MI5 here. Over there, it was called Spooks. But you have
Right.
10 seasons of basically one of the greatest espionage spy shows ever made, and it's on Tubi, and I just got sucked back into it.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully you guys found that little conversation interesting. I mean, we have seen over the years more and more production leaving the States, and then especially here in Southern California, although we've seen some tax incentives coming back to the area. And like Rob mentioned earlier, you know, when you invest a certain amount back into the industry, you get almost tenfold, because the surrounding industries, the restaurants, the like he said, the lumber industry, the set, you name it, lighting, everything, all these ancillary industries that thrive under the core of the movie making industry profit.
Guys, we want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, PrizePicks. Well, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. With the football season coming to a close, this is your last chance to jump into football action before next year, and PrizePicks is making it easy by giving you $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. What I've always loved about PrizePicks is how simple it is. You're just picking more or less on player projections, building your lineup, and rooting at home while you watch the game. I also really like their early payouts feature. If a player gets off to a hot start, you can cash out before the game even ends. And with the new social feed, you can follow other players, copy lineups that you like, or use them as inspiration for your own. So don't miss out. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CAMPEA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CAMPEA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
So we'll see. We'll see how this transitions for the future. But let us know your thoughts on that in the comments.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.